Hello everyone. Today we are discussing and just like that season 3, but I'm going to run back a little bit to what happened in season 2. And last time we ended on this point when Miranda and Che Diaz they basically broke up after like turbulent relationship, and on one of those like stand-ups of Chase, Miranda actually met like the other version of Che, that version like she never knew about. And basically Che was joking about Miranda in a way that is not like flattering, and a lot of jokes were about Miranda's sexuality and how she couldn't decide like whether she was queer or bi or like uh, any other identity. And she was like making normal jokes based on her words. It's like her job to be on that stage and to make bad jokes about relationship, because this is what stand up basically uh, represents. And after they clashed outside of a club, they basically like didn't like come to any agreement on like how this relationship could have been ended. Like, there is no good way or bad way to end this relationship, but like Miranda thought that they ended up on a good point, not a bad one. But like Chase seems to be so like tired of explaining herself to people, especially to Miranda, and she met the other representative of queer community. Her name is Toby. And basically Toby is a new love interest for Che Diaz. They met when they brought a box of abandoned kittens to the vet's office when Che Diaz was working or still working. Initially, she doesn't realize that Che Diaz, the comedian, is the same person they recognize. And this is like Toby's introduction is part of storyline where Che's queerness is explored further. So basically what happened was, before Miranda moved on from this relationship with Che seemed already so tired of this, like, again, constant explaining of herself to everybody, and even to her girlfriend Miranda. And what I really understood, that she actually needed someone like more experienced in queer, like in being queer, and she needed someone who is already like completed, or someone like this person, basically Toby, because they both are queer representatives and they know exactly what they want. And when you meet someone like Miranda, who is just newly like arrived queer, she's just introduced to this community, she doesn't really know a lot about being a queer, so she needed someone who is more experienced. And all that relationship with Miranda was just some type of experience, and I thought initially that was a good like human relationship to observe. From my point of view, that was like a good example of two people with different vibes and different like lifestyles run into each other, and something just sparked. But that wasn't enough for them, because two completely different areas. One person is comedian and another person is just, uh, like representative of Human Rights Watch, because Miranda is currently working on Human Rights Watch, and she's some type of reporter. And of course, after that, Miranda was introduced to another woman who was basically working on BBC, and she was a producer on BBC. Her name Joy. And since Miranda is already like in this like industry, she knows pretty well what she's doing. It wasn't really hard to get to know Joy better because they were already working together. They were involved in the same project, and they just hit it off immediately. And Joy, compared to Che, she has more balanced sense of humor, not that like intense, and she has more like I'd say like mild jokes that even do not hurt nobody, because she only like trying to like be kind, but at the same time be that humorous person. But Che is just too much intense for Miranda, and all her jokes on that stage, of course, was like just a big mistake, because she was basically hurting Miranda by making jokes about their relationship. And this time it seems like she met someone really understanding her, since she is just a new queer representative. She needs someone who is less intense than Che is. And this is a normal thing, actually. And they like together, Miranda and Naya, her professor at Columbia Law School, they preparing some type of like they preparing for Caroline's last supper. That dinner is supposed to be last dinner at Caroline's place before she is moving out of there. And she basically sold that place, that apartment, and she's like preparing this big dinner for every character she knows, for everyone. And Miranda, of course, is one of those guests. But she knew that Che is gonna be there at that dinner, so she is going to skip that. But like Naya is convincing that Miranda is like better to be there. Miranda is gonna be there because of Naya just supporting her and trying to like make this friendship work. And Miranda even made up with her ex-husband Steve. They actually are friends now. After they broke up, there was like misunderstanding, and since she is a queer representative and he's just free agent, they both like tried to come to this conclusion where they can be like in everybody's like lives, including their children, including each other. They can be just as friends. And on that said dinner, Che is already arrived, and she actually just met Caroline's downstairs neighbor. Basically, she is Lisette, and she is some type of stylish, young, millennial jewelry designer, who initially clashes with Caroline over noise from the stoop, but eventually forms a friendship with Caroline. And basically she admires Caroline for her style. She thinks like Caroline is so iconic. And basically Lisette some kind of represents a younger version of Caroline itself, you know. And she occupies apartment that previously was occupied by Miranda and Steve. Just a little note. And at the same dinner arrived Chase, co-host from podcast, Jackie, and basically with his partner Smoke. They were like, so close during Chase's podcast era or something, like her career together with Caroline. The three of them, they were on that show, on that podcast, and they like reunited again at this dinner. And Miranda also came with her Professor Naya friend, and together they were like more, put together, because watching each other back is way easier to come to this dinner when your ex there and you just met your ex at that dinner, and Miranda is not so friendly at first, but they actually made it up, and Che apologized for every joke she made about Miranda on that stage. And shortly after, Caroline doing this speech, during which every guest should have told one word that related to something they want to let go, basically something that they won't relieve, And Miranda, of course, she said guilt. Basically, I was trying to understand what guilt exactly she meant. And I think that she was referring to her past relationship, not only with Steve, but probably with Che as well, because her guilt practically was her part in Che's life, and that part is undecisiveness and her, unexperienced, queer life, or something. Like she was actually feeling guilt because of holding back Che. Maybe this is the type of guilt she was referring to, but I'm not sure. But of course, Che just said that one word, and that word was boundaries or limitations, because this is the only word that is constantly coming out of her mouth, because she's completely just fixated on one thing, that is anything that limits her as a queer person. She just so opposed to anything that seems to be limitation. And Miranda was kind of that limitation. When they were together, she wasn't completely ready, because she was just, she just got out of her relationship with Steve, and she needed someone more relaxed and understanding. She needed someone who would give her all the time necessary. And Joy actually became that person. After they did this live on BBC, that was actually, so urgent, and Miranda was called up to make this live, and Joy is actually the person who called her to help with this live, and she asked her for drink. Basically, initially Joy asked Miranda for drink, but Miranda told that she is not drinking anymore because she was experiencing a huge problem with alcohol in previous season, and this time, like, Miranda actually asked Joy out. The BBC producer she has crush on, and she's trying to understand if this sympathy she has for Joy is on both sides, not only on Miranda's. And since they are already working together, they have a lot of subjects to discuss. They have a lot of like good points to start this relationship from. And basically, Joy, she gave Miranda a lot of good, like, lessons of how to be relaxed on stage when you just hosting live, how to be like, present, and how to be like, in control of the situation, basically. And this is the first time they were so close. And since Joy is British, I think this somehow just, contributing to her personality, which is more relaxed and conservative, because she seems to be more conservative in every way than Jade is, basically. But it doesn't like mean that she is like a more reversed person, or she has limitation, or like she's not confident. She's just another type of queer representative, and she's more of that relaxed, chill person. And Miranda feels so comfortable in her presence, basically. So this is like a good point again to like start your new relationship from. And together they just did another live working on BBC Human Rights Watch live. And this time Miranda did some good mistake, like she actually, stumbled over her words or something, and she just, said cunt instead of another word. And this wild cunt became a huge meme for the rest of the season, probably. I don't know, but it seems to be viral, and she immediately just, gets recognition on social medias with this meme. And she's so like, worrying about if this meme is going to be like ruining their relationship or friendship with Joy, because they just, got to know each other, and this meme is going to be something like, inside joke right now. And Caroline actually suggested that Miranda could have asked Joy to Caroline's place, because Miranda is currently living like in Caroline's place. Miranda doesn't have her own place, and she is like renting Caroline's. But the problem with Caroline's place is that she has no furniture. She has no like nowhere to sit, basically. Only one bed. And when all the friends of Joyce from UK arrived to Caroline's place, which is currently Miranda's, they were making joke about that said meme, wild cunt. And Miranda noticed that during that dinner, Joy never like made any eye contact with Miranda. This is like my third stream we are discussing eye contact. It's like became some type of, common thing on every TV show. Eye contact, making eye contact, how people fixated on this eye contact. And actually, this is something disturbing you when you think that someone is attracted to you. And if she avoided any eye contact with you, that could have been something like uncomfortable for that person, because eye contact is always something that represents interest in both sides, basically, and mutual, sympathy. But actually, Joy told that she tends to shut down after she feels she is attracted to someone. And that tendency is not only implies to Joy, actually. This tendency is something like every person probably experienced even once. When you just feel attraction to someone, you could be shutting down yourself, because like now you feel like if it's mutual attraction, there is a possibility to ruin it. And to not ruin it, you feel like you need to be more patient, and you need to be more like, like relax and not to be intense. And this is why she basically shut her down, to not to spoil this moment, basically. But they immediately just realized that there is nothing wrong with this, not making eye contact, and this is just, the point when they just kissed first time, and this kiss basically was like Miranda's third kiss after she broke up with Che, because before that was like there was a quick fling with a nun, if you remember, that they met at a club and she slept with another woman, and that woman turns out to be a nun. And basically she started ghosting that relationship, Miranda, and now this is her third queer relationship, if I remember correctly. After Cheetahs, this is her third experience with a woman. And this experience seems to be really like matching Miranda's lifestyle and the way like she sees that queer relationship for her. Because I think everybody, like including Che, sees queer like relationship, like romantic queer relationship differently, because you can see that like in a way that is like different from another person does, because everybody just so different. And it doesn't mean that queer relationship is always the same for everybody. It's not like that, basically. And Miranda is currently experiencing her noisy neighbor who is turning on music so loud, and she's like, telling Caroline that she needs another place. And they came to agreement that Miranda can move in Caroline's place that Caroline is currently living in, and they can live together for some period, till Miranda find something like more like chill, and she tried even to worry the neighbor that was noisy one, but nothing nothing actually worked because she turned out to be some kind of freak with a huge knife, just staring at her and threatening her to not to disturb him, like but the only person basically disturbing was him. But she after that moved in Caroline's place. This time it's like a new apartment of Caroline, the one that she moved in after she sold her initial place. And of course this place is more like, it's bigger actually. It doesn't like have a lot of like, still it doesn't have a lot of furniture, but it's like Caroline's new place. And she is also experiencing trouble with her neighbor, but this time it's like not a noisy one. It's Caroline, a noisy neighbor, and her wheels, excuse me, so her heels basically making a lot of noise, and her downstairs neighbor is so like freaking out because of that like heels noise she's making. And this is something like she was already experiencing when she was living in her previous apartment. And her previous downstairs neighbor, Lisette, she was like clashing with Caroline over all the noises. But basically the one who was making them was Lisette, not Caroline. And I just noticed that a lot of focus on neighbor relationship, like neighbor problems with like your neighbors and how they like trying to come to any conclusion to like end up in the most like comfortable like place, but every time it's like something even worse. This time this writer just constantly complaining about Caroline's heels making that noise, and he's like even joking that Caroline has no rugs basically. So should she have any rugs, it could have been way like less loud, but that wasn't the only problem of Caroline's. Basically, after Miranda moved in, they experienced a lot of misunderstanding in terms of the like food and all the things they sharing right now. But it was just a little things that was disturbing Caroline, like eating the last banana, yogurt, or something like this. Little things that are so common for people living together. And she went to Joy's place first time actually, and they were trying to hook up at Joy's, but Joy's dogs basically, they were so loud. Again, this is something about your neighbors, noisy neighbors, but these dogs, they were like barking for no reason basically, or they just felt a presence of stranger. She tried to just calm them down, but nothing actually worked. And this like first time at Joy's place basically was spoiled due to her dogs barking. And Miranda came back to Caroline's, and another like disturbing thing for Caroline was that Miranda was like lingering around her apartment naked, like, and it's not like Caroline never saw Miranda naked, but in her apartment, she herself even not walking naked, and when she sees like Miranda doing that, she like feels confused basically or something like that, and she's just making jokes of it, but it's still something like that brings another like little argument towards this friendship. And the main and the biggest probably fight over living together when Caroline's friend realtor like came over and to see this new big table that she basically got from her boyfriend or something like this. And Miranda was already working at this table, and she just, got this table so dirty. And they even like spilled the freaking cola, and everything just got spoiled. Everything just soaked cola. And of course, that cola was the last Mexican cola of Caroline's. So basically, Miranda consumed all last things of Caroline's at this place, and this is pissed off Caroline, like, to the point that they agreed that Miranda would move out anytime soon, but they actually ended up on a, like, good point. They didn't actually just become less friends or something. So this is how this like season 3 episode 5 ended, and I see you next time with more And Just Like That season 3. And this was just a quick short stream to discuss all the things, because last time we were more focusing on Che Diaz and Miranda, and now we just ran back a little bit more of how Miranda's journey of her new life as a queer began, and how it's all just unfolding so quickly, and she's trying to actually embrace it, but she now has a new partner and seems to be working, but nobody knows actually what will happen next. And we see what happened, what will happen next episode next week. Thank you. Goodbye.